Last week, Traveler's Rest developers unveiled an extensive roadmap outlining everything they plan to add before the game's full 1.0 release. There are a lot of exciting plans in store, so let's dive right in. First, the devs plan to lean further into high fantasy in the game, particularly in the form of the Arcane. If you've already seen some of the shorts I've made covering the dev teasers for this game, you probably already knew that magic of some sort was on the way, but the roadmap shared a much clearer picture about what we can expect. The new magic content will arrive in the next update, which will expand on the explorable mines that were just added to the game, as well as give us a brand new magic underground city area called the Hollow. Visiting this new area hidden deep below Rilia will allow us to study the Arcane. Here we'll be able to buy Grimoires, spellbooks that will keep track of or hold various spells we can unlock in the game, and we'll unlock spells by further exploring the newly improved mines. Within them, we'll discover magical resources that will allow us to add spells to our Grimoires. As far as the spells we'll be able to cast, the devs seem to have taken some inspiration from other farming life sims like Fields of Mystria. There will be spells that allow you to summon rain to water your crops, speed up your crafting workbenches, and catch fish instantaneously, but these are only some of the spells that have been teased so far. Honestly, I would personally love to see them add a movement speed or teleportation spell we can use, since the map has gotten so much larger in recent updates that it would be nice to be able to traverse the world more easily. But, like I said, spells aren't the only magical addition that will come to the game alongside the new Magic City area. Within the Hollow, we'll also be able to purchase new seeds that can allow us to grow magical plants on our farms and craft new arcane recipes. Likewise, in the mine, we'll find a variety of new ingredient items that will also enable us to craft the new arcane recipes. With already over 300 tavern decoration items available in the game, you might have thought the devs wouldn't have more customization options on the way, but we will be getting brand new arcane-themed decorations to use in our taverns associated with the new Magic City update. Another major feature shared in the roadmap is a brand new social relationship system. This will let players build friendships with NPCs, and yes, romance is part of the package too. It wasn't entirely clear before whether romance would make its way into Traveler's Rest or not, but Traveler's Rest has such a unique cast of characters that befriending and romancing them will probably be quite an experience. Anyway, if you're someone who enjoys friendship and romance in other farming sims, this update should make you feel right at home. As of right now, the devs haven't shared any clues as to who will be romanceable or exactly how relationships will develop, apart from mentioning in the roadmap that there will be NPC social progression questlines. It's unclear whether those questlines will be tied to building friendship and romance, like having to complete tasks to increase how much an NPC likes you, or if they'll unlock after reaching certain milestones as a reward, similar to the heart events in Stardew Valley. A big question I'm sure is on a lot of players' minds right now is whether the romance system will go further, delving into adding things like marriage and children, since those are pretty standard in other games that have romance as a feature. And for those playing in multiplayer, especially with a partner, there's also the question of whether romantic interactions between players, like marriage, will be possible too. So far, the devs haven't shared any details on either of those points, but when they do, I'll be sure to cover it on the channel. In the meantime, I'd love to hear who you think might be romanceable and who you would want to romance or befriend in the comments below if you feel like sharing. In addition to the new social system, there are also 8 more NPCs that the devs plan to add to the game, and although character portraits for them weren't shown on the official roadmap shared on Steam, we do know who some of them potentially could be and what they might look like from the devs' official Trello board. However, the Trello board shares 10 NPCs coming, not 8, but some of the NPCs aren't given actual names but are called things like Beggar or Mischievous Child, so the roadmap might only be referring to named characters that are planned in future updates. Regardless, if you're curious, the NPCs shared on the Trello board are the Beggar, the Trickster, Bill, the Mischievous Child, Ob, Anduin, Garreth, Eric, Ricon, and Mara. We don't know much about them besides their names and portrait pictures, but most likely they will have some connection to the new areas still planned to be introduced to the game. Speaking of the new areas, the Magic City isn't all that's coming. In the next update that will expand on the mines, we'll also see the Shimmering Swamp and Fiery Pit biomes added inside the mines, which will introduce several new resources for us to collect. The Hollow itself looks like it could also feature several new key locations, including the home of Magnus the Wizard, Ob's house, and the Nest, the Hollow's own tavern. There's also a chance we might see places like Greed's Mansion, the Abandoned Mansion, and the New Dawn Temple here, though those may end up belonging to different non-magical regions that we could encounter later on. Looking ahead, the update that seems to build toward a story confrontation with Tweek could act as a gateway to the next major map area on the roadmap, the Goblin City. Thematically, that setting feels like it could be a natural fit for locations such as the guards' barracks and the guards' jail, but for now, that's still speculation. Further down the line, the roadmap also mentions a city exterior, Rilia's graveyard, a mausoleum, and a gravedigger's home. All in all, there are a lot of new locations on the horizon. However, there is one more area of the map that was not mentioned on the roadmap, but is listed on the Trello board, and that is the Lighthouse. And although we do have pictures of what the Lighthouse zone is planned to look like, it's unclear as of right now if this area is still planned to come to the game or not, and if it is, what kind of story purpose it could serve. Speaking of the story tied to these new map areas, a huge chunk of the roadmap was dedicated to the rest of the game's main storyline. If you've worked through the story quest so far, you know we've made a name for ourselves by battling against Klayn at the Pledge Banquet and proved our precision, balance, and mettle in an intense showdown against Kyroh. But there are still several members of the Fellowship of Tavernkeepers left to face. Up next is Tweek, followed by Pudding and Orwyn II. After that, we'll take on Rebella, before we're finally led into what looks like the ultimate confrontation with Lucian, a matchup a lot of players are especially excited about. Interestingly, Ox isn't on that list, which raises some questions about his role in the story and whether we'll face him at all. But even once the full story is done, the game won't end there. The devs still have more planned for us to enjoy. One example is the Hollow Vendors event, which will likely take place in the magical underground city. Based on the name, it sounds like special merchants might show up with limited time items. We'll also see the introduction of a new tavern keeper named Karma, along with a related minigame. And finally, the devs hinted at additional self-contained events as well. Whether these might take the form of short cutscenes, minigames, or something else entirely hasn't been specified. Something that might fall under this category of self-contained events, though, could also be the holiday events, like the Christmas and Halloween limited time events that we've seen in previous updates. The developers have mentioned that they have plans to make these not tethered to real-life time, but based around in-game time instead, like making the Christmas holiday event trigger when it's actually winter in the game. And although this wasn't mentioned specifically on the roadmap, it could be reasonable to assume that that feature may find its way into the game prior to the 1.0 release, along with the extra story events. Alongside the expanded story content, we'll also be getting some new art for the game. While the developers have already completely overhauled the original early development art assets for the game, it looks like there are still plenty of fresh and exciting visual additions that they have planned. First, we'll be getting brand new character cosmetics. Next, there are new flooring and wall options coming for our taverns. We're also apparently getting themed guest rooms. Right now in the game, each guest room has a descriptor word attached to it, but at the moment, all the rooms can say is neutral. The new themed guest rooms seem to be planned to build directly on this feature. On a similar note, the developers are also planning to introduce themed customers. There's also been some interesting community speculation that this could connect to larger world factions. Throughout the game, we've seen different banners like the Children of the Sun, Republic, Space Pirates, and Demon King, which hint at there being distinct groups within the world of Traveler's Rest. Combined with NPC dialogue suggesting things like cult activity, it's not hard to imagine factions somehow playing a bigger role in the game down the line. Nothing like that has been confirmed, of course, but with these systems being introduced, it wouldn't be surprising if some of the game's underlying lore started to show through in the types of themed customers that we might see in our taverns. Further down the roadmap, there's also a few features that the developers haven't really discussed before, meaning there's very little concrete information about what they'll actually change in the game. The first of these is something called Bar Table Change. Players speculate that this might involve upgrading or visually customizing the bar, adding extra taps, or even allowing NPCs to sit directly at the counter to be served more interactively. The only confirmed detail, though, is that on a technical level, the bar has been reworked in the game's backend to function as a container for holding certain items. Though there aren't any specifics yet related to the other bar-related change mentioned on the roadmap, which is new faucets for the bar table. Will we be able to add extra faucets to the bar, change what they're able to hold, buy some that look visually different than the ones that we currently have? It's hard to know right now the extent of how the bar area might change with these new updates, but the important thing to note here is that both of these features are listed under new systems rather than simple art updates. That suggests the developers might be planning a deeper rework of how bar tables and faucets actually function, rather than just giving them a cosmetic refresh. The current VIP system in the game is also getting a redesign. Right now, VIPs appear once you reach a certain reputation level in your tavern. You'll receive a notification ahead of time letting you know when one's arriving, and their visit can have a noticeable impact on your reputation depending on how satisfied or dissatisfied they are with their visit. Whether this will be a more minor or major rework hasn't been revealed yet, but with themed guests being introduced, it's easy to imagine VIPs could become more complex as well. They could potentially arrive with specific themed requests or require a higher level of preparation and hands-on management compared to regular customers. The roadmap also briefly mentions something called a highest material resources level system. The wording on this is a little unclear, but it seems to suggest that the developers could be planning to introduce something like different tiers of raw materials in the game. In practice, this could mean introductions of wood variations like hardwood and softwood, or higher quality tiers of ore, stone, or possibly even crops. If that's the direction that they're heading in, it could greatly affect crafting, allowing us to create upgraded versions of recipes using these higher tier materials. Maybe that would include better quality food and drinks, improved furniture, or even more advanced upgrades as part of late game progression. The exact purpose of a highest material system and how it might work hasn't been explained yet, but it does sound like it could improve gathering and crafting, as well as give us more meaningful progression and resource goals to work toward over time. Another oddly worded addition to the new roadmap is a new highest archaeological items level. This seems to relate to the artifacts that we can uncover through digging that were added within the Pet Party update. But I'm unsure if items refers to the raw materials we dig up or the archaeological furniture recipes that we can craft. Either way, it suggests that one of these two things may get additional tiers of rarity or quality. This could mean that we could possibly discover more valuable crafting materials or improved tavern decor recipes. The roadmap also confirms a brand new buildable structure for our property, a greenhouse. This is something players have requested for a while, and it fits right in with the game's core farming elements. Basically, having a greenhouse will likely allow us to grow crops outside of their normal seasonal restrictions. This could make it possible to grow select spring, summer, or autumn crops even during the winter time. But wait, what about bug catching? Wasn't that promised for the game too? Even though it didn't appear on the roadmap, bug catching has been mentioned by the developers before as being a planned feature, and it is still listed on the official Trello board as something that may be coming to the game down the line. However, its absence from the Steam roadmap could mean it may have been delayed until after 1.0 as a planned feature, or possibly deprioritized altogether. But still, it hasn't been officially ruled out, it's just unclear where the feature currently stands. Looking at everything that was shared in the roadmap, it seems like one of the devs' biggest priorities for the game is finishing the main story. As I mentioned, there will be around 4 major story updates to come. And if we assume that the next major update, including the Hollow, might drop in roughly 3 months, based on the cadence of previous updates, it's possible when those big story updates are all done, could be sometime around late next year or potentially early the year after. That timeline could, of course, shift to allow for the additional systems like Romance to be added, but it is possible within the next year or two that we could be very close to Traveler's Rest's full release. Traveler's Rest is already a game that can give you hundreds of hours of fun, plus can be played in multiplayer, and it's only going to get bigger and better from here. So I'm hyped to see the end of early access in sight, and I have high expectations for the future of the game. But with that said, there are still some areas of the game that I'd love to see more content added for. The first of these areas is the tavern management aspects of the game. While I am very much looking forward to all the new features that the roadmap mentioned, I would also love to see more content based around the core of the game, actually running the tavern itself. For starters, it would be wonderful if the devs gave us the ability to hire more employees and scale up our taverns even larger. Not just duplicates of the normal employees we have, although it would be nice to be able to hire at least an extra waiter or waitress, but maybe even more types of employees would be fun. Many other players have requested a bard-style entertainer that allows you to choose a music track from the soundtrack to play in your tavern to fit with the medieval theme of the game. Likewise, since tavern management is actually the core of the game and the other content like mining, gathering, and fishing are intended to be more optional, it would be nice too if you could also hire some sort of employee that could take care of gathering materials for you, or even run into town to buy supplies. Another fun add would be some more hands-on management aspects within the tavern. I love that we're able to do things like cooking and brewing in the game, but it just feels like there could be more to manage. As well, once you've gotten your tavern to the point where it can run itself, you've unlocked everything in the game, and you've amassed a large amount of wealth, it would be great if there was a little more of an endgame gameplay loop, and just adding a couple of endgame mechanics and big late-game money sinks could probably go a long way with fleshing this out. Also, I do feel like the current system where you automatically fall asleep late at night doesn't really fit super well with this game. Typically, I don't mind games where you fall asleep at a certain time, but since there has been so much optional content added outside of tavern keeping in the game, and the world you need to traverse has gotten so large, especially with the addition of the mines, it makes the day and night cycle's penalty of falling asleep kind of feel a bit needlessly restrictive. Our tavern already gets cold at night, so why couldn't it also just get less busy during the nighttime hours and be allowed to stay open throughout the night? That would still incentivize closing our tavern and going to bed, since the slow hours would probably lose a bit of money due to staff wage costs, but it would get rid of the random passing out when you're just trying to explore or collect items. But that's just my personal opinion. Some crazy features that the game doesn't need, especially not prior to 1.0, but just that I think would be cool or fun, are maybe the ability to build taverns in different locations, like have a secondary tavern in the hollow that you could also manage, or just having an outside seating or terrace kind of area for your current tavern. The latter really makes sense for the game since there are several decorations that can only be placed outside of our tavern. And now that we're able to actually clear out the land around our taverns, it would be really cool to make use of that to design some cute seating areas that are actually functional and raise our tavern's comfort levels too. And then lastly, some more minor things that I'd like to see that I've also seen other players asking for are more farm animals in barns, little throwbacks to very early versions of the game, like being able to add herbs to the bread that you make, having the ability to adopt additional pets, being able to change the default bed that we are able to sleep in at night, and maybe having some way to remotely access items in your chests across the map to specifically complete the offering riddle in the mine without having to go all the way back home just because you didn't happen to be carrying a chicken egg at the time, would be some really nice quality of life additions too. But those are just my thoughts after going through the roadmap. The devs haven't disappointed so far, and I think they have a real opportunity to make Traveler's Rest one of the all-time best cozy games out there. It truly is quite unique and fun. Anyway, I'd love to hear your opinions on the future of the game too. How do you feel about the new official roadmap? Are there things that you wish would be added to the plans? Do you also have any crazy ideas that you dream of them adding to the game someday? And what do you want Traveler's Rest to be like by the time it fully releases? Let me know in the comments below. I really would love to know. And as always, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a quick like to help the channel, and don't forget to subscribe for more Traveler's Rest content. See you next time, and happy tavern keeping!